They said grief reveals truth, but no one warned Julianne that her husband's death would destroy her entire reality. Her whole life seems like a dream. Before we uncover the heartbreaking secret that shattered 20 years of love, take a second to subscribe to the channel. Every week we bring you unforgettable stories filled with shocking twists, hidden secrets, and emotional endings you won't see coming. Now let's go back to where it all began. 20 years of marriage, 20 years of "I love you," 20 years of sleeping beside a man who was never fully hers, and it all collapsed because of a locked drawer, hidden identity, double life she never bargained for, a diary. And then everything changed. Hidden among the documents was a name she had never heard before. Her heartbeat slammed against her chest. Her hands trembled. She couldn't believe what her eyes just saw. For a moment, her life seemed like a nightmare. Julianne was 25 years old when she met him, a beautiful young Black American woman working as a hotel secretary in downtown Chicago. Life was not luxurious. It was routine, structured, predictable, check-ins, bookings, complaints, tired travelers, until he arrived. Francis, a very handsome tall white man in his mid-30s, calm voice, expensive suitcase, quiet presence that didn't match the chaos of the hotel lobby. He wasn't loud like most guests. He was, distant, almost lost. "Good afternoon," he said, placing his passport on the counter. Julianne smiled professionally. "Welcome to Crescent Hotel. How may I assist you?" He hesitated for a moment, as if he wasn't used to being helped. "I just need a room. Quiet, for a few days." That should have been the end of it. But Francis kept coming back to the desk. Not for complaints, not for requests. Just conversations. "Is there a good place to eat around here? You seem like you know this city well. Where would you go if you were new here?" Julianne thought he was just another lonely traveler, so she helped him. She showed him restaurants. She helped him navigate the city. She even printed directions for him when his phone wasn't working. What she didn't know was that every small kindness was pulling her into a story she couldn't escape. Friendship that became love. Francis extended his stay. Days went by, turned into weeks. Then extended it again. Then again. Soon the hotel stopped being temporary for him, and Julianne stopped being just a staff member. One evening, he waited after her shift. "You always treat me like I matter," he said quietly. Julianne laughed lightly. "That's my job." But he shook his head. "No, it's not just your job. It's you." That night, he asked her to dinner. She hesitated, but she went. And that dinner became the first of many. Francis was not like the men she had met before. He listened. He remembered details. He asked about her dreams, not just her day. He told her he was new in the city for business opportunities. He never explained what kind, but Julianne didn't press. Love doesn't always ask questions in the beginning. It only listens. Marriage and 20 years of peace. They married when Julianne was 28. Francis was 38. A simple wedding. Few guests. No drama. Just love and sweet moments, or so she believed. Their life looked perfect from the outside. A house in a quiet neighborhood. Occasional vacations. Late-night conversations in the kitchen. 20 years passed like that. No major fights. No scandals. No suspicion. Francis was a calm man. Private. Protective. Slightly reserved, but loving in his own way. He never talked much about his past. Whenever Julianne asked, he would smile and say, "Some stories are better left behind." And she accepted it, because she trusted him, because she loved him. Because after 20 years, you don't question the foundation of your life until the foundation cracks on its own. The death that changed everything had happened suddenly. Francis collapsed one morning in the kitchen. No warning. No long illness. Just silence. Then chaos. Hospital wasn't peaceful. Doctors are on the edge. Then a phone call that ended everything. He didn't make it. Julianne's world stopped. 20 years erased in a sentence. The funeral was quiet. Too quiet. Francis had no known relatives attending. No close family mentioned. Only Julianne stood there, holding a marriage that suddenly felt heavier than grief. But grief was only the beginning. The real story started after the burial. 2 weeks after the funeral, Julianne went through his belongings. She was missing her beloved. She wasn't searching for secrets, only memories, old clothes, books, personal items. Then she found it. A small metal key taped inside a drawer, labeled only L7. She didn't understand, but something in her chest tightened. That evening, she followed the key to a storage locker Frances had rented years ago. Locker L7. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were documents, bank files, photographs, and a black leather diary. She opened it, and the first page shattered her reality. If you've made it this far, you're about to witness the moment that changed Julianne's life forever. But before we reveal what was hidden inside that locker, make sure you've subscribed and turned on notifications so you never miss our next unforgettable story. Trust me, what she's about to discover is something no wife should ever have to face. The diary, the second life. The diary was not random, it was organized, precise. Dates, names, locations. Then she saw it, a photograph. Francis, but not alone. Beside him was a woman and 2 children, a family. Julianne's breath stopped. She flipped the pages faster. What she found destroyed everything she believed. Francis had another life, another wife, another home, another identity, in another country, and it didn't end there. He had been sending money, buying property, securing their future, for 20 years while living with her. Julianne dropped the diary. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." But the truth doesn't care if you're ready. It only arrives. The real reason he left them. Then she found the second layer, a set of classified-looking documents, police reports, warnings, and legal notices. Francis was not just hiding a family. He was hiding from something dangerous. He had been involved in a shady financial network years before he met her. Fraud, high-level corruption, illegal investments. People died in that world, and when things collapsed, he disappeared. But he couldn't bring his first family with him because they were being watched, tracked, targeted. So he ran. He changed identity, started over, met Julianne, and built a second life, a safe one. But it wasn't built on honesty. It was built on escape. The hardest truth. Julianne sat on the floor of that locker for hours. Her mind kept breaking the same question. What was real? Was his laughter real? Were his kisses real? Was their marriage real? Or was she just the safe place he hid inside? Then she found one final letter, addressed to her, unopened, dated a week before his death. Her hands shook as she opened it. The final letter from Francis. If you are reading this, I am gone. And if I am gone, then the truth has finally caught up with me. I never planned to love again. I ran to protect my first family. I thought distance would be enough. But then I met you. And I failed in a different way. I loved you, Julian. But I also lived a life I never fully left behind. Everything I built for you was real. But everything I hid from you was also real. I am sorry. The emotional collapse. Julianne didn't scream. She didn't cry at first. She just sat there, quiet, numb. Because grief had turned into something heavier than sadness. It was betrayal, not from a stranger, from the man she trusted for half her life. She had buried her husband, but now she was burying her reality. The aftermath days passed, then weeks. The silence that followed was heavier than the funeral itself. The second family was eventually contacted through the legal process. The phone call shattered their world just as completely as it had shattered Julianne's. They were stunned, heartbroken, confused. For years, they had believed Francis was dead. That was the story they had lived with. That was the grief they had learned to survive. To them, he was a father who had disappeared from their lives without explanation, leaving behind questions that would never be answered. Now they were learning that he hadn't vanished. He had simply been living another life, miles away, with another wife, another home, another family. Their memories of him suddenly became impossible to trust. Every birthday he missed, every promise he never kept, every unanswered question now carried a painful new meaning. Julianne, too, found herself questioning everything. Every anniversary, every late-night business trip, every excuse, every loving smile, every "I love you." Had any of it been real? Or had she spent decades loving a man she never truly knew? Two families, two different versions of the same man, both convinced they knew him, both discovering they had only known the parts he chose to reveal. The truth had arrived far too late to bring healing. It only left behind heartbreak, unanswered questions, and lives forever changed. And in the end, no one fully had him. No one fully knew him. Julianne returned to the house one final time. The silence greeted her before she even opened the door. No laughter, no footsteps, no familiar voice calling her name, only memories. She walked slowly through the hallway, her fingers brushing against the walls they had painted together years ago. Every photograph, every piece of furniture, every corner of the home whispered a story she thought she knew. But now, every memory felt like a lie. She stepped into their bedroom and froze. The bed they had shared for 20 years remained perfectly made, as though it had been waiting for him to come home. She stared at his side of the bed, empty, cold, forever untouched. Her chest tightened as tears blurred her vision. "This was our home," she whispered. "Or at least, I thought it was." She walked toward his closet and gently ran her hand across one of his jackets. It still carried the faint scent of the man she had loved with every piece of her heart, the man she had trusted without question, the man she had buried. She closed her eyes, hoping to remember him the way she always had. But every memory was now stained by the secrets he had left behind. The hidden room, the locked chest, the photographs, the names she had never heard before, the life he had carefully hidden from her for 2 decades. She slowly sank onto the edge of the bed, clutching the old key so tightly it dug into the palm of her hand. How many nights had he slept beside her, carrying secrets she never even imagined? How many times had he looked into her eyes, knowing he was living a completely different life? A tear rolled down her cheek, then another, until she could no longer stop them. Looking around the room one last time, she spoke through a trembling voice. "I didn't marry a man. I married a mystery I never solved." For a long moment, the room remained silent. Then, her eyes drifted toward the hidden door. It was still slightly open, and from the darkness beyond it, something caught her eye. Something she was certain hadn't been there before. Months passed. The house no longer felt haunted by unanswered questions. It simply became a place filled with memories, some beautiful, some painful. Julianne eventually sold the home they had built together, not because she wanted to erase the past, but because she finally understood that healing sometimes begins by opening a different door. She kept only a few things: their wedding photo, a faded postcard from their first vacation, and the old key that had changed everything. Not as a reminder of his betrayal, but as a reminder that the truth, no matter how painful, had set her free. There were days when she still cried, days when the silence felt unbearably loud, days when she found herself reaching for the phone before remembering there was no one left to answer. Healing wasn't something that happened overnight. It arrived quietly, one sunrise at a time, one deep breath at a time, one small act of choosing herself over her grief. For a long time, Julianne wondered if forgiving him meant pretending none of it had happened. Then one morning she realized forgiveness wasn't about excusing what he had done. It was about refusing to let his secrets keep stealing the life she still had left to live. So she forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because she deserved peace. She began traveling to places she had always dreamed of seeing. She reconnected with old friends. She laughed again, cooked meals just because she enjoyed them, opened her curtains every morning instead of hiding from the light. Slowly, the woman who had been broken by the truth became stronger because of it. One afternoon, as she watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson, she smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. Not because she had forgotten him, and not because the pain had disappeared, but because she had finally accepted that one man's secrets would never define the rest of her story. She looked toward the horizon and whispered softly, Thank you for the lessons. But my life doesn't end with yours. Then she turned around and walked toward her future. For the first time in years, she wasn't walking away from something. She was finally walking toward herself. The greatest tragedies aren't always the ones that end with death. Sometimes, they're the ones that begin after the funeral. When the flowers have faded, the guests have gone home, and the people left behind must learn to live with answers they never wanted. Some secrets are buried to protect others. Others are buried because we're too afraid to face the consequences. But the truth has a way of finding the light. Always. If this story taught us anything, it's this. Love cannot survive where honesty does not exist. Because trust isn't built by grand gestures. It's built by the courage to tell the truth, even when it's difficult. And while betrayal may change your story, it never has to define your ending. If this story touched your heart, kept you guessing, or reminded you that every choice has a consequence, then you're exactly where you belong. Here on Velvet Twist, we bring you powerful stories of love, betrayal, family secrets, redemption, and unexpected twists that stay with you long after the story ends. So before you go, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next unforgettable story. And if this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Could you forgive someone who kept a life-changing secret from you for 20 years? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time. Remember, every secret has a cost. The only question is, who ends up paying for it? Who?